Number 20, HorseGym with boots. The art of standing still. The interesting thing about horses is that they don't stand still really unless they are resting, as these two horses are doing here, or they might just be standing still and looking into the distance to see if it's safe to keep on standing still or to try and get a look at something that might be approaching. When horses get their food in the natural way, which is grazing, you notice that they don't graze standing still. They move 1 foot at a time as they graze along, or obviously they move around to find better pieces of grass. So if we're asking a horse to stand still, we're actually putting him into an emotionally intense experience. So if we ask a horse to keep his feet still, confidently, we have to get an emotional buy-in from the horse to be able to do that. A horse's willingness to keep his feet still is an active thing that he has to decide to do. Since good horsemanship is all about having control of the horse's feet, it pays to take some time to develop this willingness and confidence in our horses. So standing still is a positive action by the horse which we have to foster. We could think of it as inactive action on the horse's part. The next couple of clips will look in detail about how we can foster this sort of confidence. For instance, tying up is a very obvious one. Most of us need to tie our horses up at some point. And just keeping the mat there once they understand that a mat means stay there makes it much easier for them to accept being tied up. So tying them up, giving them a click and treat for staying tied up is great. If we're going to be using ropes around our horse, we definitely want them to be confident with ropes against different parts of their body. We don't want them to take off for another county. We need them to stand still for taking halters off, putting halters on. We don't want them to walk off in the middle of a process like that. And we need to teach our horses to halt and stand still at least long enough so that we can ask them to walk on again to wherever we want to go next until we get to our next halting place. So standing still at our request is pretty important. We might just want them standing still so we can teach them a new things such as head lowering, which Bridget's working on here. And unless we can get them standing still confidently, doing anything else with them standing still is going to always be problematic. So here she's asked Smokey to drop his head and she's taken his halter off. Of course, the whole process of tacking up requires our horses to stand still. If we can do that with a click and a treat and get them to target the gear as it comes out so they have a buy-in, that makes it so much easier. And standing still for foot care is something that a lot of horses struggle with and a lot of people struggle with. If they're comfortable on their mat, they have a buy-in to standing still there, then all sorts of foot care is so much easier because you're doing it together rather than doing it to the horse. A lot of horses are pretty spooky about things moving around them, so if we can get them standing still and move things like balls or wheelbarrows or anything else we can think of around them, it gives them that much more confidence when they're in a situation where they're asked to stand still and there is commotion around them. And commotion can come in all forms and shapes, so as long as the horse has had some background into this sort of stuff, better. Hosing down, we'd like the horse to stand still, so it's a major exercise to build that confidence so that we can hose them down whenever we really need to. And the ultimate standing still, of course, is when you want to put your horse in a trailer and ask it to stand still, sometimes for hours at an end. And the preparation of standing still and standing on a mat out of sight and all the other things we can do is priceless.